Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Insight. I'm Nathan, and for a special guest today, we have Miss Baisden. Miss Baisden has a ton of experience in sports, being the assistant athletic director at Watkinson and having played D1 college basketball. Welcome, Miss Baisden.
Thank you.
Uh, okay. All right. Let's get right into it. So, how strong of an impact do you feel mental health has had on an athlete, well, can have on athletes' decision making and just like overall performance in general?
I think mental health can have a very strong impact on an athlete's decision making and definitely on their overall performance. I think when an athlete, I mean, any person, but specifically an athlete, is in a good place mentally, I think they just feel better about the process, the sport they're playing, the practice, the games, and kind of everything that comes with it. So I think that being in a good space mentally and like having good support around you plays like is a huge part of yeah, just being in a good place mentally to play sports.
All right. So, having seen the difference between collegiate and high school level sports, do you feel that there are certain things high school athletes should, or like even like JUCO athletes moving up to D1, do you feel like there's anything they should do to prepare themselves for a higher level of any sport?
I think it's really hard to replicate kind of what comes with college and college athletics, but I think some skills that high school student athletes can continue to work on to prepare them for college. Two important ones I would say are like organization and then time management. Time management is huge in any collegiate sport at any level, just because it's just like a different world, I think, in terms of like the commitment, in terms of the practices, in terms of the weightlifting sessions, in terms of the travel and still needing to get your work done. So I think focusing on those skills is helpful at the high school level. And then I think um, just being open to like a new process. Like a lot of things are going to feel new teammates, new coaches, but just understanding that that's just like a part of it and being open to that.
All right. I'm not sure how much your college career was impacted by the media because I'm not sure how like widespread you guys played or anything. But when you were an athlete, do you feel like the media talking about you or your team or really anything like that in general? Do you feel like that helped, hurt, or really did it have an effect on your performance at all?
Yeah, so I think when I was in college, obviously social media was around. I'm not that old, but I don't think it was at the level that it is now. So I think when there were like articles or video recaps about games that we won or like did well in, I think that helped a lot and like made us feel good, made me feel good if I saw my name in an article or knew that like we got a big win as a team. But I think it's like a different level now. And I think no matter the level, it's like with social media, one video or one post, right, can go viral. It can be the smallest college you've never heard of, but like just something that went viral, catches a lot of attention. And sometimes that can like hurt student athletes, I think, especially if that video or anything posted was like showing things in a negative way. So I do think that it has the ability to help student athletes if things are in a positive light, but it can also hurt. But for me personally, I'd say that um, I definitely saw like more good rather than bad, so that was helpful, and I think it definitely helped and like made me and like my teammates, if they were featured, like feel good.
All right, that was a great answer. Let's see. Um, Do you feel like the media or business, really just business of college sports, like there being the transfer portal as big as it is and things like that, do you feel like it affect your mental health at all?
Do I think the media affects
Like,
mental health?
like in general, like do you feel like athletes should like prepare themselves to be able to shut out the media and focus on their sport so that way they're in a better mental space, like you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, I think that's easier said than done. I think programs, I know like we had like media training in a sense to prepare us for like interviews and stuff like that, but I do think that I think it's helpful for programs and teams to implement just because of how big social media is today and how it can be harmful. So I think um, preparing student athletes for what comes with that, unfortunately, is helpful, and I do think it's necessary. Um, Yeah, I think that kind of answers the
Yeah,
question.
no, that was good. Yeah. So were there ever any instances in like the playing environment or really anything like that where you just felt like anxiety was getting the best of you or anything like that? Because I know I've had experiences like that where like the game is like say an example is like the game's close, like things like that, and you're just like your mind is just like all over the place, just things like that. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a part of the game at any level. Feeling nervous in a close game, right, or big game, or maybe you're not performing how well you wanted to. And I think that just practices at the collegiate level can be a whole different level and make you feel anxious and nervous, especially as like a younger player, a freshman joining a new team. I think like a lot of players are coming from being the best or one of the best players on their high school teams, and then you're realistically, in most cases, on a team in college where you're not anymore. Um, and that's just like the reality of it. But what I think the important takeaway from that is kind of just like falling in love like with the process again of like the process that like kind of got you to that point of being one of the best players on whatever team you were just on, like kind of going through that same process and working and just doing what you can to be ready to perform when it's kind of like your time, per se, like at the collegiate level or on that new team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like athletes being critiqued by the media like brutally or just like at all? Do you feel like that's good or bad, or do you feel like that's something like do you feel like that's something that the athletes like signed up for or anything like that, just being a high profile collegiate athlete or professional athlete even? Or do you feel like they should be able to just put their head down, work and just not have really anything like tearing them down or anything like that?
um That's like a bigger question. I think that kind of gets into like even the business and money side of things. I think we're in a time where like social media and sports broadcasting, right, and like critiquing games and teams and individual players is like what brings money in, and it's honestly what people want to talk about. So I think brutally critiquing, right, and anything in a negative light, knowing that it can impact student athletes, especially at the collegiate level, isn't okay. And I know like the NCAA has even done work to kind of like make new campaigns about like protecting student athletes on social media and like their mental health, and because just it can just get so nasty. But I do think on the flip side of things, I think that when we use those platforms, so whether that's like television or broadcasting or social media platforms, like in a positive way, I think it's great. And I think that the conversation around collegiate sports is like important. And I think it's great that people want to talk about it, want to be involved, want to follow teams so closely, and like have these dedicated fans and people really into the sports. But I just think that we need to like respect student athletes, respect their process and their mental health, while we can also like praise and admire the hard work that they do. But I do think there has to be a line, right? And once you start getting into some of that negative stuff, that's when it can really hurt those individual athletes. So I think if people and like businesses and social media kind of understand that line, then it can work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so that's pretty much that's really it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're about out of time, but yeah, thank you very much for being on here. It means a lot. Yeah,
Yes, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
of course, of course.
All
All
right.
right, thank you.
You're welcome. See ya.